In this tutorial, I'm going to briefly show you how to use the liquify tool to make adjustments and enhancements to your picture. First stage is to convert your background layer to a smart object. To do that, you just simply go to the Layers menu, go to Smart Objects, and Convert to Smart Object. You'll see in the bottom right-hand corner a small little icon that shows that it's now converted to a smart object thumbnail. Next stage is to go to the Filter menu, go to Liquify. You'll then be directed to the Liquify options dialog box, and you'll see that on the left hand side you'll see that there's a range of different tools that you can work from. On the right hand side you'll see that there's a range of different properties from these tools. If you hover over any of these tools, it'll give you a little thumbnail information about what that tool is and the shortcut key. Same thing in the properties. So if you hover over one of these elements, it'll explain what the actual sliders do for you. So it's very interactive and helpful in this way. The very first tool is the forward warp tool. In doing so, I'm going to use the Command plus key just to kind of zoom in, and spacebar to kind of drag in to kind of show a closer detail towards this. So if I use the size of the brush, I can just kind of drag the slider over to increase or decrease the size of the brush. You can also use the left and right bracket key to increase and decrease the size of the brush. The density and pressure of the brush. The density of the brush is basically the edge of the brush strength. So if I increase the density to 100 and the pressure to 100 and just kind of drag across, you can see that it just kind of makes this bullet hole through the image. I'm going to press Command Z to back up. If I decrease the amount of the density to the brush and do that again, you'll see that the edges aren't as round. It's kind of conical in that way. Command Z. If I go to the pressure and reduce the amount of pressure to this as well, it's not going to be able to press so far into the figure. Now the key component with working with the liquify tool is to slowly start to make your build and changes and not to do it so quickly and radically. Because if you do it very quickly, it'll make adjustments to the skin or the fabric in ways that don't look natural. So if I wanted to kind of start to kind of press in a little bit with the belly over here and kind of push up a little bit with the chest here, you notice that I'm just making these slow adjustments, kind of going back and forth and slowly starting to kind of build things up in this way, changing the posture and making adjustments that just enhances the picture. Now the second and third tool underneath the warp tool is the reconstruct tool and the smooth tool. So for instance, if I increase the pressure a little bit here in the density, and say for instance I wanted to build this up a little bit and I go a little bit too far like I did here, I could just simply use the reconstruct tool, which is kind of like a back button. So if I build up the size of the brush and just press down, it just goes back to where I was originally starting from. So if you were going a little bit too far, you can just kind of back it up a little bit. If I use the warp tool again and I was working in a range of different areas here, maybe across the chest here, and maybe kind of push this in a little bit here, push this in a little bit too much here, and maybe push that in a little bit too much there as well. I can then use the smooth tool and just kind of drag across, and it's just going to kind of smooth out the elements that I've kind of built up a little bit too much. Okay, so these two tools underneath the warp tool, it's kind of like a back button. The next tool down, which is the twirl clockwise tool, does exactly what it says. It kind of twirls the image clockwise. If you hold the Alt Option key while doing this, it does a twirl counterclockwise. So you kind of work with the tool in both of those ways. The next tool down is the pucker tool, and the pucker just kind of puckers in parts of the image that you need. And the cool thing with this, again, if you want to reverse that, you can use the Alt Option key, and it kind of bloats it out. And that's very similar to the tool underneath, which is the bloat tool. So if I wanted to kind of bloat this out a little bit too much, I can use the Alt Option key and it'll go back to puckering. So these tools are very helpful in all of these different ways to kind of make adjustments and enhancements. I'm not going to spend too much time to kind of walk you through this, but it's just kind of a intuitive step-by-step basis with it. Another tool that's really cool is the Face Aware Liquify option. So I use the drop-down option here. I'm going to kind of scroll in, Command plus, kind of zoom in a little bit. On this face right here, you'll see that there's eyes, nose, mouth, face shape. So if I work with the eye size, you can actually see that I can make very small or large adjustments to each of these features. So eye height, eye tilt, things of that nature, you can make adjustments. Same thing with the nose. You can increase the height or decrease the height or the width of the nose in this way, pinch it in. So there's a lot of different changes that you can work from with the mouth. So if the person's not smiling enough, you can actually add more of a smile, build up more of an upper lip or a lower lip. These adjustments are very helpful if you're working with compositing images as well as just working with portraits. So it's very, very helpful in this way. If we select OK with that adjustment, you'll see that since we've created this smart object here, we now have a liquify option here. So if we're making additional adjustments or making in the adjustments panel with curves and anything like this, and we want to go back and make some further adjustments, we can just simply double click back onto the liquify tool and we're back into the dialog box. We can make further adjustments in that way. Okay, and again, the key element is to make these adjustments that they aren't noticeable and just small elements that enhance the picture overall.